Hello and welcome to the Black Rose Garden. As you probably know from the multiple videos I've made about Twink leveling gear, I've been leveling my second character. And after the campaign, I wanted to level using the new XP shrine strategy that everyone's been talking about, because it is almost certainly the best leveling strategy to do by yourself. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos explaining the strategy, and I noticed that different people were using different combinations of scarabs. And it seemed like everyone just chose which scarabs to use based on intuition, which is fine, but I wanted to figure out concretely which combination of scarabs gives the most XP. Now, if all you're looking for is answer, I'm not going to hold you hostage and force you to watch until the end of the video. I'll just tell you right now that based on my testing, the optimal combination is to use 1 Scarab of Teaching, obviously that's mandatory, 2 Domination Scarabs, and 1 Breach Scarab. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to go over my complete setup in detail for this XP strategy. Then I'll talk a little bit about my testing process and share some pretty interesting things I learned along the way. I hope you enjoy. So for my setup, let's first talk about my Atlas tree. Most of the ones I looked at from other YouTube videos are nearly identical because everyone just wants to take the same things. First, you're obviously taking all of the shrine nodes, except you don't need this last one, since obviously shrines are the central point for this Atlas strategy. Then you take Beyond, Breach, and either Exarch or Eater Influence to add a lot more mobs to your map so that, well, you have more things that give you XP. Then I think getting 100% chance to spawn Nico is pretty important so that you can take advantage of this node. All the stats that this node gives is very good, but movement speed is especially important because it lets you reach more packs of mobs before your shrine effects run out. I also really like Wellspring of Creation because it makes you a lot safer, and the entire point of the strategy is to gain XP, so the most important thing you can do is to not die. And lastly, I take a few nodes for map sustain so that I don't have to buy maps. I'll put a link to this Atlas passive tree in the description, but just know that pretty much everyone's is the same because they all want the same things. As for the map, I chose Jungle Valley, but you can choose any open layout that's good for Breach, like Dune or Canyon. Jungle Valley just gives you slightly more profits from your Eldritch Altars. I simply chiseled and alked every map and then put 1 Delirium Orb. Next, really quickly, if you didn't know, you need the Gull and Solstice Vigil, both to increase the duration of your shrines. On your map device, you always want to take Domination here for more shrines. And lastly, for the Scarabs, you obviously need 1 Domination Scarab of Teaching. And then what I tested was different ratios of Domination Scarabs and Breach Scarabs. It's pretty obvious that there are no other Scarabs that are better than these two to fill your remaining slots, because more breaches by far gives the most mobs on your map, and more shrines gives you more of the increased XP buff. Now let's talk about my testing setup and my results. So I tested 0, 1, 2, and 3 Breach Scarabs, with the remaining slots being filled by Domination Scarab, and I ran 3 maps for each setup. And this is the XP per hour that the game shows you. I reset the XP per hour before starting every single map. I did this testing at level 98, so your numbers will be lower if you're at level 99, and they'll be higher if you're at a lower level. And the results are having 1 Breach Scarab with 2 Domination Scarabs was the best, followed by having 0 Breach Scarabs and 3 Domination Scarabs. So the problem with running more Breach Scarabs is, first of all, on average, they increase the duration of your map because you have to wait for the entire breach, even though I was taking all the nodes that increase how fast the breach opens and closes. Having too many breaches makes it really difficult to do all of them while still having the maximum number of shrine buffs. Then on the other side of the spectrum, having 0 Breach Scarabs means you only get 1 breach per map from your Atlas tree, which is significantly less monsters. If you look at the individual XP per map, you'll actually notice there's quite a big variation, like 440 million here versus 250 million here. And at first I was really confused about this, but after very carefully watching my own replay, I realized that this happens because whenever you click on a shrine, there's a chance that it gives you a buff that you already have. So sometimes you can click on a shrine and it's supposed to give 2 buff effects due to syncretism, but if you already have those 2 buff effects already from previous shrines, it is possible to get no new shrine effects when you click on a shrine. The more shrine effects you have on you, the more likely this is going to happen, which is another reason why 0 Breach Scarabs is worse than 1 Breach Scarab. And now for the last part of the video, I want to talk a little bit about the interesting things I learned while I was testing. The first is that even though it is technically optimal to run through your map and click on all those shrines before you kill any mobs or do the breaches, this is actually not optimal if you have a normal amount of movement speed. You need to have really high movement speed, or for example, like Zizaran clears his map using Frostblink. Otherwise, I realized you just simply get more XP by clearing as you go. Obviously, you still want to try to get nearby shrines before doing breaches. The second thing is that my testing actually got really scuffed if you watch my streams where I did all of this testing live. In my first attempt, I started trying to do this test while I was level 96 because I wanted to figure out what was the optimal combination of scarabs to use before I was done leveling so that I could finish the rest of my leveling using the optimal strategy. But after running 3 maps with this setup, I realized that I filled 50% of my experience bar, which means that I would level up before I finished running this test. And it's very hard to compare XP gains between different levels due to different XP penalties. So then I tried again when I reached level 97, and that got scuffed for various reasons. So I couldn't do my actual test until I reached level 98. So I started this test when I was level 98, 0%. And by the end of it, which is just running these 12 maps, 79%. So it's kind of funny that my testing got scuffed because the strategy just gives too much experience. And that's pretty much everything. I hope this has helped you, and thank you for watching.